And like I've actually, when I take bike groups there, I had one student who was run off the road just by someone who like he was kind of anxious on his bike, and someone just zoomed past him without saying anything. So like it's kind of just like yeah, we've seen how these are on the Hank Aaron Trail, and I think they can be really helpful just as a frame of reference for everyone. So I just can't say enough. Like this is just I think it's long overdue. Personally, I love it. One thing, just kind of as like a finer point or something. I mean, and same with the Hank Aaron Trail. Like we see in most trail signs, the word etiquette is used. And I had a conversation years ago with the then current director of the trail for the Great Allegheny Passage, the Gap Trail in Pennsylvania, and he made a note about like he's kind of trying to get away from the word etiquette instead of like, well, is it etiquette or is it trail expectation or is it trail rule, or I don't know what the best synonym would be, because is this something we're just kind of like maybe suggesting people do, or are we actually saying, hey, this is part of, if you're going to be on the trail, this is what's expected, just so we can all get along safely. So yeah, again, I would be thrilled just with this as it currently is, but that was just something I wanted to throw out there too.
Yeah, that's an interesting point about the language. I'd be open to other people's opinions on that. I think trail etiquette works, but we could brainstorm, other language around that. I think etiquette evokes the same kind of message as rule, personally. But yeah, that's a really good point.
I appreciate the inclusion of a link to report issues.
Yeah.
Smart.
On that note, I can actually jump into that because that was another thing you all asked about. So that's on our new signs, especially like our trail etiquette signs, and maybe with our map kiosks as we update them, we want to use QR codes more, and we're actually developing QR codes for our soft surface trails as well. They're in print right now, and those QR codes will be to link people to our interactive map. So you can get to a trailhead, the QR code will be on one of our Carsonite signs. You can hit that, and then you can pull up the trail map. So that's one use of QR codes that we're trying to kind of roll out system-wide, and I think that will be helpful for navigation of our trails. I'll be the first to admit that our interactive map is a little clunky, but it's better than nothing, and it gives if you're savvy with your phone, it gives you a really good quick hit of where you are. But what we have on this one is issue reporter. So for those of you not familiar, there's a system in place that you can report problems on our trails. It's not just problems for our trails, but really any county parks related issue. So if you're at a picnic area and a garbage can has been dumped and the garbage has been spread everywhere, you can report that, and then our unit staff can respond to that. I'm going to change the way I'm sharing my screen so that we can look at some of the links. All right, just do a quick demo of Issue Reporter, see if things actually work here. It might not. This way.
This Issue Reporter is limited to parks.
Not quite. So it's like there's two. So if you go to Issue Reporter, you'll end up on this landing page. You can make a profile. We have an internal side of things called CityWorks, so I don't have a profile for this, but you can proceed as a guest as well. Unless you foresee yourself complaining a lot, then you can make yourself an account. So yeah, there's highway issues and there's parks issues. I went through that kind of quickly. So you'll log in. You'll see a map. This is all of the different issues that have been reported. I think it shows issues over the last like 6 months, or maybe it's 3 months. I'm not actually entirely sure, but you can look at the legend and see different types. So they're submitted, open, on hold, canceled, closed. So if you are going to navigate this, I do recommend checking to see if the issue you're seeing is already reported. That's, you know, it's helpful to know that. And then, you know, if it's still there, it's actually helpful to report it again so that, you know, our staff can see that multiple people are seeing this issue. I can't speak to highway issues, but I can speak to parks issues. So you would go in and then it kind of filters out to just parks. There's, you know, a running list on this side, but you can also just navigate on the map. I want to test something. We had an issue reported on our trail down here yesterday, and our staff did do it, but they haven't closed it yet. So, you know, we can see, you can see the type of issue. This one was a tree down on the trail. You can see this person was lurking out at night when they did it.
Could have been the
but
morning.
That's acceptable. Yeah, so that's actually one that's really important for my team specifically is if you're out on a hiking trail, you're out on the Oak Leaf Trail and you see a tree down, we are trying to really hone in our response time for those. We do trail checks very regularly, but again, you heard we have a pretty small staff and there's 135 miles of trail, Oak Leaf Trail, and 40 plus miles of hiking. So there's a lot of ground to cover. And so the trail users are really, really critical eyes on the ground.
Thanks, where. And so this is similar. Looks similar to the city's app or website.
Yeah,
if you go in, say this is the type of issue I'm seeing. This is where it is.
Exactly.
Update the status. You could see other ones too. I think in the city one. Although the city's obviously got a lot more options.
Right. Yeah.
No, this is great. This is new-ish.
It's been around. I don't know, Jim. Do you know how long Issue Reporter's been in the books?
About 4 years.
4 years.
Oh, okay.
So relatively new-ish. Yeah.
Cool.
And I've been advocating a lot for it. Whenever I get a chance, I tell people use Issue Reporter. So much so that I'm getting personal call-outs
In the comments?
in the comments.
Jacob made me.
Hi, friends of county parks, and probably Jacob. So yeah, you can specifically call me out if you'd like. I enjoy that. That's fun.
No, this is great. And I think because this was the first time I've heard of it, but I can recall. So having it on signs, I think would be a great way to make people more aware.
Yeah. So that'll go on our trail etiquette signs. I think those kind of go hand in hand really well.
Can you show how to tag a request that's trail versus?
Yeah.
This is our issue reporter for everything, operations, trades, forestry, natural areas.
Yeah. So, all right, you've gotten in, you've navigated to your issue. Since we're here, we'll just zoom in on Estabrook Park. You can see that the Friends of Estabrook Park really likes Issue Reporter. Oh my gosh, because there's a lot, and we've been really responsive because they submit a lot. So you can then just go down here, submit issue, and it'll just pull up this form. You can type in your name, phone number, email address, and then there's a drop down for problem type: graffiti, road concern, safety concern, trail concern, trash, tree. I don't personally care whether or not, if there's a tree down on a trail. You can say it's a tree concern or a trail concern. We have staff that manually do sift through these and, double check to make sure that it's actually a trail concern. But use your discretion, what you think fits the best. And then, you can put in as many details as possible. This is one thing I want to plug. If you're doing this, please give as very detailed location description, especially on trails. The closer you can get to it, the better, because then we know, like, oh, we can use this specific trailhead to walk in, and then we're not hiking a mile in with our chainsaws to get to the issue. So I really appreciate that when there's details, and then adding a photo as part of that. I really do like that as well, because it can help us gauge the scale of the issue. And then there is a locations, so you can click on the map, and it'll automatically give, the address of wherever that is. So using that as well is really, really critical. And then you just report it. I'm not going to do that. But that's Issue Reporter.
That's great.
Tell your friends.
choose.county.milwaukee.gov.
Oh, that's helpful.
Any thoughts, questions, concerns about issue reporter?
No.
Switch back to this.
This is already live too, right? Like it's already functional.
Yep, it's been live, like Jim said, for about 4 years. And we're slowly but surely getting more people to adopt it. I still get emails and like direct calls, and that's fine too, but this keeps everything in a single place and creates a backlog, so that we can, look back and say, oh, we were here 2 years ago and the same issue happened.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of helps create a paper trail. So we really want to push folks to utilize this.
Sure. Cool. Excellent.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Travel at a safe speed seems to be the least clear of all of these etiquette
Yeah.
directions. And just have you thought about a speed limit, or if that requires board approval and that's too much, even something like recommended speed limit of,
One
Something.
passing or
no, I mean,
just overall?
as we have more and more electric devices, I think this is just only a growing issue.
Yeah.
And city too, what are we thinking on city trails?
It was pretty deliberate that we went with something vague. Speed has been a big concern. So we wanted to include something with it. But you're right, there is some nuance with the laws around speeding, and specifically e-bikes. State of Wisconsin has 3 designations for types of e-bikes. There's class 1, 2, and 3.
Mhm.
And each one can go at different speeds depending on whether it's pedal assist or throttle. And so it's kind of a murky line between what's speeding and what's a motorized vehicle even. So I think it would require some legislation at the county level to actually implement a speed limit and a stopgap for what's a motorized vehicle versus what's not. But yeah, travel at a safe speed was deliberate for that reason, because speed limits are difficult to enforce too. We don't have the staff capacity or anything like that. So we're going with a check in on your neighbor approach. Everyone should. We're a collective, we're a community. We should all be, taking our a little bit of personal responsibility. But that's a really, really good point, Jessica.
Yeah. We're having the same conversation around protected bike lanes.
Yeah.
Not just trails. I just forwarded the two. You actually had a thread on the NACDO list or where other cities are doing. They're just wanting the same
Sure.
etiquette signage. Same conversations around protected bike lanes, like riding 25, 28 miles per hour protected bike lane probably isn't the best idea. But I had the same thought about the travel at safe speed. What do you have? We say, but is there a way to be a little bit more direct around slow down when your others or ride slow?
I'm open. Yeah, I'm open to ideas. This is a draft. So if you guys have better language.
That's not telling you much either, but.
No, but it is a shift. I agree. I'm absolutely open to other language, and I'm glad that this was brought up, because that piece of having trail etiquette signs is, that's a big
Is there
part of the influence.
minimum passing distance? I know there's 3 feet for roads, but I don't.
Yeah. That could be included. I'd like to keep it to 5 points on this.
Yeah,
Now,
I get it.
from that, it's just because we want these to be, we want people to be able to go 15, 20 miles past these signs and still be able to read at least the top line or whatever. So that was part of keeping it pretty tight and concise. But so it would be that would be a swap out in my opinion. So I'm open to input and ideas around what language we can use for travel at a safe speed. I recognize that's pretty open-ended and up for
I think
interpretation.
that's the one that's probably,
That's why it's at the bottom.
it's tough though.
Yeah,
But I think signs are a great idea overall.
cool.
Anybody, or did you have more?
No, go ahead.
Did any or Barry or members of the public have any questions or comments on anything discussed so far? Please.
May have missed this in the beginning, but is there an app, a maintenance app for the protected bike paths? We were talking about that on our ride this morning.
For your
In
city?
the city.
Yes, so the city does have, there's kind of a few different ways you can report problems with stuff like that. The kind of few main direct ones are, there's the MKE Mobile Action app, which you can find on our website and stuff too, and that's kind of more similar to the county's issue reporter kind of thing. And then also you can call 286 city, and then those also kind of all get entered into the same system for the DPW crews to go and check out if there's a problem.
Cool. Great. Anybody else? Otherwise, thanks. Appreciate the presentation and all the work.
I'm sorry, actually, there are a couple more points that we can hit on if we have time.
Sure.
I'm just gonna jump into just kind of a broad overview of some of the trail projects, and maybe Jim, if you want to take the lead on that.
Yeah, just, I'm pressed for time, are you, with your agenda?
No, super pressed.
We just have a couple of active and upcoming projects within the city of Milwaukee that might be of interest. Breezing over them in case you're aware, but we are converting a couple of parkway roads to Oakleaf, segments of Oakleaf Trail. You can applaud yourself on that. So Lincoln Creek Parkway segment from 23rd to 27th, just east of, west of Lincoln Park, east of Titonia, conversion to trail, Little Menominee Parkway, Appleton to Leon Terrace, another trail conversion project. So those are right now 30-foot wide roadways being converted to 10-foot wide bike ped trails. Some upcoming improvements, pending funding in some cases, the rebuild of Jackson Park Drive in the Jackson Park neighborhood between Cleveland and the KK River. We have a project to rebuild 0.9 mile segment of road. Half of that would be trail, half of that would continue as road. Juneau Park Oakley Trail Connection, that's a city TIF funded project, is originally a county capital, but we will at some point in the future, pending workload and capacity, improve the ramp, the trail that goes from Juneau down to the Oakleaf at LMD. Cole Park, 2.3 mile new addition to the Oakleaf Trail. So still city of Milwaukee, but just barely. So across the street from the Mequon Nature Preserve, north of Northridge, is Cole Park. And we will this year be finalizing design, bidding, and construction anticipated for next year for another 2.3 mile segment there.
Cole Park is in Coles.
Okay, it's Herb Cole,
Yeah.
who donated the land to us. KOHL, yep. And then Bender Park is Oak Creek. We have a future project which would be connecting the Oakleaf on the east side to Hampshire near UWM. We have TAP funding for that, so we need a county match, which we're requesting in next year's budget, or I'm sorry, upcoming budget, yeah. And then the Oakleaf Trail Modernization Project, which is kind of a mixed bag of repairs and repaving and drainage improvements, things like that.
Was there one that was like in Oak Creek, like further south?
That was Bender. I kind of just jumped over it. So I don't know how interested you are with improvements in Oak Creek, but yeah, we are extending.
New trail, right? Or extension?
Yep, it would be a new trail through Bender Park, which is near the We Energies plant on the lakefront.
Is that, and will that connect to anything down there?
So the way I think Bender is really exciting if you're interested in the trail network as the 7 county, like the Route of the Badger network. I see Bender as basically being a near perfect connection into like Racine County. When you couple the existing Oakleaf with the Bender extension with the We Energies trail,
I was going to ask about
you can pretty much take downtown Milwaukee all along the South Shore to the county line along separated trail. So yeah, I mean, it's pretty cool in that way.
Yeah, that's excellent. That was the one that I was trying to remember. So cool. Yeah, all of those are great. I mean, this is probably the most trail extension or additions that we've seen in.
Yeah, we're trying to up our advocacy a little bit too with, we have our trail network plan, but Jacob's sharing up on the screen, an advocacy campaign safer streets ahead, that we're trying to really just promote the value of trails. We've honestly found, data around like economic impact of trails and things like that to be somewhat lacking. So we're just trying to move forward with our own advocacy campaign to package all of these different discrete projects that we have all around the city. And some of the stuff I haven't talked about, like what is the future of the road through Lake Park and things like that. And so that it's all connected as we're building a network. We're not just building a 0.4 segment here, a 2.3 mile over here. It's really the, 100+ mile network that we're trying to grow. Our department has a stated goal of increasing the Oak Leaf by 10 miles in 3 years. It's a little bit of a stretch goal, but it's very public facing. So that's what we're leading with. And it aligns with, our goals of increasing healthy activity and recreation. It also, we're trying to educate elected officials and the public also that this is fiscally responsible because trails are cheaper than roads and they're much more sustainable in terms of environmental impact, but also just day-to-day maintenance in terms of plowing, salting, how much asphalt we're putting out there in the park system, et cetera. So it's all just a comprehensive educational campaign that we're just launching and we'll probably implement over the next couple of years.
Yeah, it's great. And I assume there's a lot more, municipalities are a lot more open to kind of creating these connections too, it seems like over the past few years, which is good to see too.
Yep.
Have more of a real network.
Yeah, I'll put this link in the chat. It's a good landing page to find all of the projects that Jim just talked about. So at the bottom of the page, you can see all of our active Oak Leaf Trail projects or related projects. Yeah, and there's some interesting conversation points on this page as well.
Excellent. I don't have any questions. Anybody in the room or on the call have any questions or comments on county trail plan? Cool.
All right, one last thing,
Yeah, please.
and then we'll turn it back over to you guys. Just wanted to do a quick plug for our trail network plan. So it's kind of related to this, but it's a more holistic approach. It's an update to our 2007 trail network plan. So we're nearly 20 years out from that plan. And it's time to bring it into this decade. So that project will be a broad scope kind of reference going forward for, hopefully the next few years, decade, on how we proceed with, trail projects. So it'll focus on gaps in our Oak Leaf Trail network, but also gaps in our soft surface trail network, specifically around multi-use trails. So we're in the process of selecting consultants right now, and then we'll be kicking that off late summer, early fall. And so, the folks of this committee will, be involved in those conversations. We're going to have some pretty heavy outreach at the front end of this to gauge people's interest and, get people's ideas around where they see gaps. So stay tuned for that.
Cool. Please.
Just if anyone worries that plans just get redone and not enough implemented in them, I think the Trails Network plan is actually like a very good case of the productivity that can come after a plan. So I think it's almost 75% of the major projects recommended in the past trail plan have been implemented. And those weren't just done by the county. It was, also local governments, also the state that did parts of that. So the question really is like, what are the next big ideas for trails? Because so much of the low-hanging fruit has been constructed within separate right-of-ways. So just like this whole community should feel like a sense of success of like almost, there's no more abandoned railroads that don't have trails, maybe except for a few tiny short segments I can think of actually now. But there's no major like glaring opportunities out there of these right-of-ways just dying for a trail. So it's going to be tougher to figure out where to build trails, but the county's still like dedicated to that, and it's really wonderful.
I think of one large bridge, but
Put it in your comments.
yeah.
All right, that's all I've got.
Mostly joke, but not. Any Anybody have any questions or comments on any of that? Otherwise, appreciate it. Thank you both. Appreciate it.
Thank you again. This is fantastic.
Yeah, appreciate this and all the work you do.
Thank you.
With that, I think we can move to the next agenda item. Do you
Stay.
You're welcome to. Doesn't, we've got enough seats at this large table. Would you prefer to go sooner than later? Would that be better for you?
Yeah.
Well, is that okay, Zach?
Yeah, sure.
Cool. Then we'll swap agenda items.
You might want to hear from Pete.
I'm
Pete.
yeah, I'm
Yes.
taking it in.
So I'm gonna move, the bike fed is here. Or I'm gonna move the dockless scooters update below. Bike fed's here to talk about the active transportation internship. I just hand it over to you.
Thank you. Mitch, do you have the, like a very, very short
Yes, I
presentation
do.
that I shared with you, and then I'll probably have to show and I'll give you.
Can everyone hear Laura, or should she move closer?
I can, and I'll can project or move closer, whichever you
Do you know,
prefer.
talk to seat with me?
Sure.
Get that water bottle. Thank you.
I can share it again if you
No, I've
got it.
got
Oh, yeah. And then if you go to the first one, would you just click through for me? I'll just tell you when to. Okay,
this is.
yes. Okay, thank you for letting us join you today. That County Parks presentation was an excellent segue into why we're here and what we want to share. Basically, we're here today as part of an internship we're doing. I'm just going to tell you a little bit about it, and then I'm going to let the interns share a little bit. My name is Alora Correa. I'm the high school programs manager at the Wisconsin Bike Fed. This program is called the Active Transportation Internship. We're connecting Milwaukee teens to the work of the Wisconsin Bike Fed and Vision Zero. It's a partnership with Jessica and the Vision Zero department. And then if you want to go to the next. Just a little background, this internship was created as a pilot program by the Bike Fed in partnership with Vision Zero and also the Kellogg Peak Initiative, which is where 3 of our interns come from.
So this is the first year.
This is the first year. This is the first year actually that the Bike Fed has been able to do work with high school age students, just based on changes in our TAP funding. So we designed the program to immerse the participants in bike and pedestrian advocacy, the educational programs, and several outreach initiatives that are happening right now in the city. We also provided them with a crash course in bike mechanics, smart cycling, and plenty of group riding. Go to the next slide. Here's just a couple photos. The top corner photo is us helping out at a bike adventure camp at the Peak Initiative. So the interns are working as instructors with those camps. We teach kids how to ride and then take them on a group ride. The bottom picture is a little photo I snapped during our mechanics training. So the basics, fixing a flat, doing the basic maintenance on your bikes. If you want to be riding and being able to do those fixes yourself or helping someone else who you're riding with or someone in your family or community. And then the picture on the side is us with Jessica. We're going to be doing some outreach tomorrow at a block party in Tiefenthaler Park, focusing on the anti-speeding, the speeding we can live without it campaign. Next slide. Why this internship is part of a larger Bike Fed effort to create programs for teens that offer skill building, real world job training, and community engagement. In the future, we want to be facilitating student-led efforts to make schools and communities more bike and walk friendly. a big part of this, like we tried to accomplish so many things with this short program, but introducing them to this work, to the work that you all do. They've been at a meeting with the Near West Side Partners. They've been just learning that you can have a career in this industry. All different sorts of jobs exist. Just exposing them to that, introducing them to other people who are their age or people in the community who bike and do it for enjoyment, transportation, work. And then a big goal of just the bike fed working with teens period is that we want to be facilitating student-led efforts. So like student-led advocacy, working in partnership with some of these projects, getting a teenage perspective, a teenage voice, and having them kind of like do the work amongst their peers that in some cases like only they can do, right? Like they're experts at, you know, communicating to people of their age group. And so that's like the big larger goal of starting some of these programs. Next. So a little data point that I pulled from our grant is recent studies show that 48% of teenagers aged 16 to 18 do not drive at all. 3 of our 4, I don't know, do you drive? Oh, so all 4 actually do drive. And that was a little surprising when we met and started. But it's been interesting because they then are coming at it with the perspective of a teen who's just got their license, who's driving, may not have their own car, but they have a car maybe available to them. And then also now biking. And there were no requirements. It wasn't like you can do this if you're an expert biker and you bike the city already. It was just like, do you want to participate? And so we got students at different level of like, do you bike? Do you want to bike? Are you comfortable biking? And we are now in week 5 of this internship. We have 2 more weeks to go. And these 3 questions is what I want them to share a little bit about. It's very relevant to the work that we're trying to do. And I think the county parks presentation just felt poignant because you'll hear from them the reasons they may not have been biking previously or don't know anybody really their age who's biking is that reason exactly. Like, where are the paths where I can get safely from point A to point B? And just this morning, we took the Walnut protected bike lane. They can tell you how that experience was, how it was riding downtown, which for some was their first time. For some, you know, they've been doing this, but so that's the background information. Now, if you want to go to the next slide. I didn't read those questions, but they've already been prepped with the questions. So, if you want to introduce yourself, whoever wants to go first, introduce yourself, tell them your name, what school you go to, what side of town you live in, and then just talk a little bit about like your background biking, how you feel about it now, and then one other thing you'd like to share. Whoever wants to. Be brave. Okay.
My name is David Mans. I go to Lucas King High School. I live on the north side of 40th off of Locust. And in the beginning of this biking program, I really wasn't biking. I haven't rode a bike since 1st and 2nd grade. And like now, week 5, I can confidently ride a bike anywhere I can go. And one thing I share about biking is there should like in my neighborhood there isn't really there's no bike lanes, so like I can't really bike from Sherman Park to where I say the south side, right? And I just feel like, and there's a lot of crazy drivers there too, like in between like the streets and the main road. So I feel like there should be like a bike lane or at least something to at least speed down the traffic.
Thank you.
All right, I can go next. My name is Saul Flores. I go to USM University School in Milwaukee. And coming into this internship, my like only biking experience really was like mountain biking because I did like the NICA league in middle school. And so I hadn't really done like any road biking or had any experience of that. And that's because growing up, because I live on the south side on 16th and Moon Lake. So like the driving's not that bad, but like, you still have like the occasional like reckless driver that just zoomed down the road and it's like, oh wow. But one major reason I wasn't comfortable riding was just because like I didn't think I could ride on like the road, like I was really like worried. I'm like, oh, like, what if I mess up and like something bad happens? But like something that this internship kind of helped me get over is like that fear of riding on the road. Like now I feel like if I needed to ride somewhere, like I feel like I could. And also I had like this misconception that like it would be too tiring and like take too long to get somewhere. But through like exposure and all that, working with the bike fed. Oh my God, sorry, the bike fed. I've learned that it doesn't take that much longer. Like it's like 10 or like 20 minutes more, but like you don't get that tired and you get there in time if you leave earlier. But yeah. And then about our ride this morning, it was really nice going on the protected bike lanes. I didn't really feel like worried about that. And then one thing I would say though is I feel like it could be a little bit cleaner. There's like a lot of garbage and glass on the ground, which if you're riding a bike, like that could be worrisome because if you get it flat and you don't have the tools to fix it, you kind of like are stuck a little bit. So yeah, that's like my only thing. But yeah.
Thank you, Sal.
My name is Jacob Simmons. I go to Wisconsin Lutheran High School. I didn't really bike when I started, but now I'm like more comfortable biking on roads and getting to where I need to go. Because I biked from Peak, which is on 24th and Cherry. Yeah, 24th and Cherry to home, which was like it's around 91st and Good Hope. So yeah, like an hour ride.
Cute.
But one thing I would like to mention is there's a section of fun to like it doesn't have like any bike lanes or
Did you bike on Pandora?
Huh?
Did you bike on Pandora?
I kind of had to get.
Yeah. Thank you, Jaden.
My name's Owen Driscoll. I also go to Rufus King. Before the summer, I would like bike to Highland Community School, the pool and whatnot, but that was just like a few times a week, if only a few times a month. And this summer, I feel like I've just been biking everywhere. Like I've been biking to and from work. I've been biking downtown to the lakefront. So it's just a whole new level of biking this year.
And you said that you had been biking to and from school to Highland.
Yeah.
In the midst of that project, right?
No, way before it.
Did you get to use it ever on your commute or no?
No, so the first time using the new like Highland or Bowie to 35th Highland bike lane has been this summer. And I would bike on that stretch like a few times a month or whatever to get to school. And it was not great. And now it's so much better. And it's like, I wish I had that when I was younger. Because there's that intersection 35th and Highland. And that intersection is so scary as like a 5-year-old or whatever. And it's still not great, but it's like a lot better now. So
Thank you, Owen. If anyone had any questions, they said they would.
I'm curious how you all found out about the internship, and it sounds like you all had different varying experience with biking. So I'm curious how you found out about it and were interested enough to, dive into a really bike heavy thing.
Well, for me, and I guess you can list, but I connected to this internship through the Kellogg Peak Initiative, and so they like told me about it, and I was like interested because, like I hadn't done any city riding, and like, I mean, I can drive, and I drive to a lot of places, so like, I just wanted to see like what entailed with this internship, and I mean, I'm more open to like riding now, which is like what I wanted to learn basically.
Same with Saul. Me and Jaden have found this internship through the Kellogg Peak Initiative. again, I haven't been riding since I was like 6 or 7, maybe 8. So like we want to try like a really like a new thing sort of. It's when we like just want to try a new thing this summer, and just want to experience like new things as well, like meeting and connecting with people like through biking. I feel like that was just one good way to spend my summer.
What interested me about internship was I wanted to become more comfortable biking on the roads instead of using sidewalks. So that was one of the main things that led me to be interested in.
So for me, during the pandemic, I got interested in urban planning and whatnot. So this year I'm interning with Forum Architects, and they're like, you should go do this thing with the bike fed. So I'm thinking bike fed.
And to be fair, like based on the flyer I put out there, I really didn't know if any of them would have any idea what it was for. It was a very unique program offering, and the other internships are pretty standard that were offered at Peak. It was like, come to this place at this time for these hours and do some gardening or do some, office work. So when I was putting the flyer together, I'm like, I don't even know how to describe what we're going to be doing, and our parents going to let me take their students and do the things we want to do. But they have just been like down to do anything that we're doing. And I don't want to put Damon on the spot, but like the first couple of days, Damon was struggling. Like he didn't know how to ride, and he was like, I'm gonna do this. I got this. And sure enough, he took his bike home and practiced for a solid week to get comfortable enough to ride along with us. So it, calling it a pilot program, it really was just like a big experiment of what can we do? What are they going to be interested in? And how could we take this and apply it, more largely in the county and in schools and with more community partners. So they've been so awesome and open to all of these various things we're taking them and doing. I didn't know if they were going to be prepared for what was in store either.
What's planned for the next couple of weeks?
We've got a big outreach day tomorrow with Vision Zero at the Tiefenthaler block or the Peak block party. And then the following week, we're doing a Bubbler Bikes day. So Bubbler Bikes is going to come teach us all how to use a Bubbler bike and then take us on a ride. And they'll be giving them a pass as well.
Okay.
And then the next day, we're going to do some crosswalk action at Davidson Park. They're having an event. And so we're going to come see a little bit of what Milwaukee Walks does, which is a department in the bike fed, focusing on pedestrian advocacy. And we're going to do a little bit more bike maintenance that day. And then the next week we have a transit trip to Chicago. So we're going to take the train, a water taxi, the L, and just experience what that type of multimodal transportation looks like in a bigger city. And then they have one more day working at a bike camp, and then that will be it.
Sounds awesome. No, go ahead.
Since this is a pilot, do you guys have ideas for like how it could grow or what could happen next year? And would any of you want to be interested in like maybe being a leader in something like this in the future?
Yeah, I feel like because it's really small right now, so I feel like having more people doing it. I feel like it's probably a good size to have like around 5 people per group. But like if you had more people leading it or whatever, I feel like that would be good and had multiple groups.
I think that we should focus more on like outreach and like talking to people and like getting them more comfortable with biking, because I didn't bring this up when I was sharing, but a major reason why I haven't biked as much was because my mom doesn't feel comfortable with me biking. So I feel like having that outreach of like teaching people that like, oh, like we're having all these new projects, like, and like just educating people like it's safe, and like if you're being safe and if you're like watching and you're experienced and like know how to ride on the road, like you should be fine. So I feel like having that outreach and then also just like teaching people like the Vision Zero project would be good.
Yeah, add to what Saul said, just a little more outreach and like more advertising of what we do and what Vision Zero does. I feel like it would definitely sway a lot of people to like get their kids or get themselves into more biking as well.
Like,
You have a couple more weeks to think about it.
Yeah.
yeah, like other stuff, because some people, they might think like, oh, I can't bike to this certain place because it's too dangerous to get there. And I feel like it would be better to teach people like how to plan routes, where they want to go.
Yeah, that's a big piece for sure. Just mapping your route and knowing like, which route should I not take? How can I get around this really dangerous intersection or a chunk of street that doesn't have any bike infrastructure? Yeah, definitely.
Adding on to that, like I know the city has bike routes, but I don't know if like we have a bike route map or like how the bike routes are numbered or anything. So I think it would be kind of cool if on the city side we had like an official bike map of like these are the ways to get from like the far northwest side to like downtown or to the south side or whatever. Safe paths and everything.
Yeah, we do have a couple different resources, none of which are perfect at this point, but I think we're trying to improve our bike maps. One resource that I don't think many people know about, we call it a low stress bike map, which you can go online and like put in where you're starting and where you want to go, and then you can choose what type of route you want. Do you want it to be the fastest route? Do you want it to be a route that takes you on streets that are low stress, so like not a lot of car traffic, slower speeds for car traffic, but it may take you like more on your way to get there. We did that several years back and like ranked every single street in the city. So it's something that I think we're in the process of updating, looking at others, but
Yeah, we're working on like getting together a kind of a new collection of some of our bike maps too, so that you can kind of go to one spot and you can look at where our new project's going to be, where are those like low stress routes, where is like existing like bike infrastructure. So that's, I think, that hasn't rolled out or anything yet, but it's something we're working on too, to kind of put all of our bike map resources in one spot. So you like right now we have like, oh, a link over here and a link over there, and they're all kind of, and it's hard to find and nobody really knows where they are, and I can't even find them. So this will be like one spot and you can like have a hub for all that kind of information.
No, I mean, excuse me, really excellent to hear from you all, and honestly kind of inspiring. So I appreciate everybody showing up every day or however many days for the internship, and doing the work out there and learning things. It's really great to see, honestly. Anybody else have any, or I mean, if there's anything else you all want to share directly, you have city staff, but you have city staff in the room. You have the advisory committee, we're here to listen as well. So that if there's something you wanted to say directly or indirectly, feel free.
Can I throw it out?
Please.
I just want you all to know that we're going to be repaving the paths in Teepathaler in less than 2 weeks. So July 31st, construction will start. So all the paths will get improved. Yeah.
We heard about that, right?
So the park itself, that project, I don't think I was asking Peak as well. They have that information, but we ran into Liam, who was doing a little bit of outreach about some of the infrastructure that's going to be happening right on 27th. So we have, right. So the park project itself, but then Liam was talking about the infrastructure and some of the traffic calming that's coming right there on 27th. And they're going to present at the block party with us tomorrow. We'll share that information to the community Yeah, we've not gotten that info yet. The park renovation or whatever is happening.
Yeah, so the paths are first, the lighting will happen later, we'll get upgraded, but we're doing the paths in a couple of weeks. It's gonna be the same alignment, but just a smoother path, a little bit safer and maybe a little bit wider. Also Washington, so Washington, say about 2/3 of the pathways in Washington Park will get redone in mid-September. Wanted to avoid concert season for construction. And then Sherman, we're working with the Boys and Girls Club to redo all the paths in Sherman. We're actually designing a bike loop within the park. So I hear you on like lack of facilities, but and the current pathway goes like this, it kind of crisscrosses. We're gonna redo it as more of a loop. And then Little Menominee Parkway on the northwest side. That'll be a new bike facility. That the road that goes from Appleton to Leon Terrace is just gonna be a bike path. And there's more to come. So I just wanted you to know that we're doing this for you and folks like you. And we hear you. I know the city hears you too. And things are going to get better. I'm really excited about the Tiefenthaler to Washington area with the bike boulevard that's on Galena now. And just, we've had conversations with the Boys and Girls Club about doing some kind of like a bike skills park in Sherman in the future too. No firm plans yet, but a lot more good stuff to come.
I know Sherman was mentioned specifically too, and the city does have a project in the works to do a protected bike lane on Sherman from, I don't know the exact limits of it. I wish I did. It's like basically from Washington Park to North Ave, is it? Capitol, yeah. So that's going to be like, I think that'll be a really like big change for that area. And a nice thing to be able to like get through that whole section because yeah, sure it is pretty busy and there's a lot. Yeah, not every spot's bike right now, but that's like be really nice to have you connection with that area too.
Cool. I don't think I have anything else other than what I've said. I appreciate it. Does anybody on the call have anything they want to share or add or ask? Otherwise, thanks again.
Just echoing Mitch, I just want to say thank you again, everybody, for making these presentations. And one of the refrains I'm holding on to that I heard from several of the speakers was that kind of sense of freedom, that empowerment you first have when you, I guess, you realize you can do it, right? When you can go from a far distance on a bike and you don't need to depend on someone in your family or whatnot to get you a car for the travel. And even if the ride may seem kind of harrowing at first, that you do it. And I think everyone in the room has had that same feeling. And you're in good company here. Welcome to the tribe. And we look forward to seeing you on the trails.
Thanks for.
Thank you.
Cool. Well, thanks again. You're welcome to stay if you want to listen in.
We're gonna stay.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Welcome to the tribe.
So Zach, scooters. And so this was precipitated a little bit because there was Public Works or something. Somebody was talking about, there was a report on scooters and you get a lot of data, I believe.
Yes.
And so you have some things to share on.
Yes, we do. And I can kind of give an overview too for everybody of our scooter program and how this has come to be. So first off, like why we have scooters in the city too is that we're really trying to build a transportation system in Milwaukee where people have choices about how to get around, and scooters are like kind of part of micro mobility. It's a really good way for people to get around that gets people out of cars into something that's safer for the community than driving around in the car recklessly, and also better for the environment, having the electric scooters compared to some sort of gas guzzling device. We also, as micromobility in Milwaukee goes, Bubbler bike share is of course, a big part of our micromobility system, but it only goes so far in the city. There's only so many spots where we have these docked bike share stations. They're more concentrated around downtown. And so the scooter system we really see as a complement to Bubbler. It gets some gaps in the city. You can go further out from the city and still be able to get around. And it also, you can kind of have that flexibility to start and end your trip wherever you need it to be. The city has done several pilot programs for this. So in 2019, 2021, 2022 to 2023. So there's 3 different pilot programs where there's a variety of different operators. We kind of learned from that to implement this more permanent program. Those pilot programs we found were very successful. There's over 1.5 million trips. In 2023 alone, there's over 700,000. So a lot of people have used these scooters and rely on them to get around, want them to get around, enjoy getting around on them. And we've kind of ironed out some of the challenges and stuff like that to kind of establish this permanent program, which was adopted by the council this March. The city then kind of immediately conducted an RFP. So we request for proposals to have operators apply for the program. In the past, we had more operators, like 3, I think 3, it was 3 last year, I think, or 3 in the previous years, yeah. So we kind of did it more simplified a bit, so just 2 operators now. We eventually selected Lime and Spin through that RFP process. That included, having the companies share a lot of information about, their devices. We tested out the devices. We had them share information about what equity programs they were going to put out, how they're going to deploy the scooters, how they're going to maintain them. There's like really kind of a comprehensive set of things that they had to kind of describe to us, and then we selected operators that had the best proposals. So the program actually launched and the scooters went back out on the streets on May 17th. So almost just a little bit over 2 months ago now. So this is getting into some of that data that Mitch mentioned, and this is something that's pretty cool about the program too, is that there's a lot of data that comes with it, and that data is useful for us, not just for the understanding how the scooters work, but also can kind of see where demand is for bike infrastructure too, because they're really used very similarly. So over the last 2 months, we've had over 250,000 trips on scooters. That's over 4,000 trips per day, and up 20% from last year. So we've continued to see the scooter program grow and grow. Each year that it's out there, people get more familiar with it. More people are comfortable using them and want to use them. And I think as we've also been expanding our bike infrastructure, I think that's something too that can help people get around on these. But yeah, 20% up from 2023. Between our 2 operators, Lime is definitely the most prevalent one. They were actually approved to get up to 1,900 scooters out on the streets. So they have a lot more riders. They're also people can get to their stuff through the Uber app. So that they're a very popular one. And then Spin is our other operator. They still have almost getting up there close to 10,000 riders that have been using their app in Milwaukee. This map shows the kind of rides that have happened so far this year, where these trips are occurring. So the darker purple is where there's the most trips. You can see that's generally around downtown, but there's a lot of ridership out in other parts of the city too. And that kind of gets into the next slide here. We'll go, which is for the rides by zone. So the way our scooter program is set up, we kind of divided the city into 7 different zones. And there's actually different requirements for the operators for how many devices they can put out in these zones. So in zone 1 and 2, which is the downtown and the east side, there's a maximum. So they can only have up to 22% of their scooters there. We don't want there to be just all of the scooters in the downtown. We want them to be spread throughout the city so people everywhere have the ability to use this kind of form of transportation. We also don't want there to be too much clutter too in the downtown, right? So the other part of this is that we have minimum requirements for zones 3, 4, 5, and 6, which is kind of the bulk of the city, kind of closer to the downtown area. And those zones, we've seen the result of this too, is that the ridership has been really good in some of these zones. Zone 4 and 5 in particular have jumped up pretty significantly from last year. And also zone 7 then is the one that's kind of the outer limits of the city. We don't have any requirements for the operators to put scooters out there, but they do have scooters out there. And we've also seen a pretty big increase actually this year in zone 7's ridership. Almost, it's more than doubled since the same period last year. So that's pretty cool too. And I think that really gets to show how scooters are a valuable part of the system, in that, our docked bike share system really only operates in zones 1, 2, a little bit of 4. So, a little bit of 6 too. So there's, it's just kind of it's very limited where that docked bike share is. And the scooter ridership outside of those areas is really, it kind of fills this gap, fills this need for how people can move around the city. So that's pretty cool to see. The equity program is one thing that, this is something we really have, focused on throughout the pilot programs and was an important part of the selection process. So Lime and Spin both offer two kind of, they're basically two different types of these equity programs they both offer. One is an access pass for qualifying low-income residents who are on some form of government assistance. The access passes for Lime is 50% off all rides, and for Spin it's 3 free 30 minutes rides per day. And so people can basically just apply through the company to get this access pass, and it automatically on their account on their app it discounts these rides. They just have to kind of show some form, just show that they're on the government assistance program and you can get in. And then the other part of this is that in those zones 4 and 5, and Spin actually also offers in zone 3. We go back to this map. I can get back there. So zones 4 and 5, and then 3 for Spin, they offer an automatic 40% trip discount for every person who starts a trip in those zones. You get 40% off your ride. So it's kind of an incentive for everybody to be riding in those parts of the city. So that's another something that we've wanted to implement in this program, and has been successful because we've seen a big growth in the ridership there too. So this is some of the data from June that's on the screen for how many people are doing these programs. And so there's 336 people enrolled in the Access Pass. There's been over 28,000 rides that have been discounted, and this is just in June. And so in June alone, like Milwaukee residents saved $63,000 just from those equity zone rides. So that's pretty cool to see. Community outreach is also an important part of the program. Our operators are required to do community outreach events. One of them we just had the other week was this called the Micro Mobility Mixer that both of them did along with Bubbler at the Heartbeats of the City event that the downtown puts on at lunchtime on a Wednesday. So there was education and giveaways, and give some raffles out for free passes too. Summerfest was a big one for Lime. There was a huge scooter parking zone on Chicago Street with there's like 100 scooters out there. They're all very nicely lined up. But anyway, they had also staff out there educating riders in person, kind of giving people, if they observed people kind of riding in a way that wasn't safe, giving some education that way too. And then they also can do push notifications through their app. So during Summerfest, that was a big thing, because Summerfest is really a big, a big time for ridership for the scooters. And then they're also doing tabling at community events across the city. This picture is from Chill on the Hill, but education on proper riding and parking. They promote their equity programs, do helmet giveaways. There's several upcoming events too. I think Spin's gonna be at the Harley Homecoming, and then there's a bunch of kind of other events throughout the city that they'll be at. One benefit of the scooter program too is that we get revenue from the operators, so the city gets money from the vehicles. There's a fee for the vehicles and then also for the trips, and so we can convert this money that we're getting into further invest in this program and into safer streets. And so some of this money going into infrastructures for scooter corrals. So obviously one concern people have with scooters is they're parking there blocking the sidewalk, and there's certain things that the operators can do in the apps to get that kind of not, if somebody can't end their trip if they're parked in a really bad spot or something like that. But we're also kind of from a more proactive side investing in these scooter corrals, so which are painted corrals in the street with delineator posts to kind of help emphasize them, and they're places where people can park those scooters, and encouraging people to park them in the street too rather than on the sidewalk. So there was over 120 installed last year, which are shown in the blue there, and in the orange are new corrals that were actually, you might be seeing some popping out right now. We were installing them now. That it's kind of based on an analysis of the trip start and end data, operator suggestions, and some neighborhood concerns. You'll also see a little hotspot or Silver City neighborhood there on the southwest side. As part of the city's adopted neighborhood program, we're also investing in some of them there. So that's a cool way that we're able to use that money to improve the program and stuff like that.
A little bit of daylighting too in some cases.
Yeah, and it can help people. We often put them near crosswalks and to make sure that people aren't parking where they're really, it's illegal to park that close to a crosswalk, but a lot of people do. And so it's a good way to have daylight those intersections. Then we go to the website here also. So this is something just for everybody to be aware of, is that the city's website has a lot of information about the DACA scooter program. So we have a page for frequently asked questions, things like pictures about, how do you ride safely? How do you park a scooter? Stuff like that. We have information about the operators, links to their websites, but also information about their access programs. And so how do you know if you're eligible? How do you enroll? Stuff like that. We have contact information. So if you want to report an issue, you can contact the operators directly is usually the best way, but you can also contact the city through our mobile action app or through calling 286 City or by emailing our team directly at move@milwaukee.gov. So that information is all there. We have some other information about the permanent program, what the RFP looked like, the actual terms and conditions, the different zones that we showed up there before, background stuff on the pilot studies. And then this is also a really cool thing, is that you can see the actual ridership for Milwaukee, like that map that I showed before. So this is some more data that's available for the public. This is updated once a quarter, so every 3 months, with a kind of the aggregation of the data from the program. So this shows the pass through our pilot programs. Let's see if we can pull this up here. You can kind of choose a different time of year. So we can look at the start of this year. And so this is from like April. This is from April, May, June. So just the first little bit of our program, but you can see where the rides and stuff were for that too, and how many vehicles are out there during this time, stuff like that. So that's a pretty cool thing that's publicly accessible also.
Can you click the all micromobility? Because
yeah, so
bikes in there.
There is an e-bikes thing. This is it's a little confusing because this is actually a back end thing that we're going to be changing a little bit with the scooter operators. There's kind of an updated background system that works. And so you're going to be able to see seated scooters versus regular scooters. Right now in our system, seated scooters are classified as e-bikes just because they're more. So this does not mean it's
not bubbler.
It's not bubbler, and it's not like personal e-bikes or anything like that. So that's something that it's a good thing to point out. But yeah, that's something that will be changing on there too. So anyway, this is a pretty cool feature though that's accessible to the public to see. And yeah. So any questions or comments or concerns?
Has because this is you get relatively detailed data, I assume, not pictured publicly.
Yeah, we have more detailed data that the city has access to that, it's not for the public per se, but it does help us, informs, we were able to track, we can see in live where all the scooters are. We can see, we can see what the operators are in terms of their compliance with the different regulations of the programs and kind of historically too and up to date. It also, gives us the access to see where rides are starting and ending, in addition to the actual kind of routes where people are scootering on. So there's a lot of data that we have access to as part of
this. Has that informed any changes in projects?
I'm not sure. Before I got here, I'm not sure how much we use it for that. And I think it's something though that having the visibility of this, it does kind of help show us to where future projects could be. I think it could inform stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think it's, for now it's really mostly informed, where we're putting the scooter corrals, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I think it's also something that can be used to inform, planning for, as we're starting our mobility plan. I think that's going to be an important thing too, where when we're doing more work to plan a larger network for protected bikeways, this could be something that informs, this is where people are actually using right now. So that's kind of a cool thing about this.
Yeah, one of the things that has occurred to me in looking at this, and like even just being outside, you can see people like take parallel, like what I would consider more dangerous routes when like they'll take First Street continuously past the trail going north. And so I think there's potential like signage things too. Like if you see a lot of scooters, we've just installed this project here, but we're still not seeing quite that traffic shift over.
Yeah, that's a good point. And that's something, I've noticed too, is like, our busiest streets for scooter ridership in the city are Brady Street and Water Street, which, neither of those are necessarily something we would say is like the most assume is, maybe what people want to take because it's not the most comfortable. But I think it's also a good reason. I think this also shows there's I think definitely a good point too about adding signage and getting people to those routes, better communicating where our protected infrastructure is. But I also think it's an important reason to be putting protected infrastructure on some of these big roads, where I think, sometimes maybe historically the mood has been, oh, these are roads for, just for cars, but it also shows there's demand for that too. So yeah, there's kind of
I haven't
thing, but
gotten a chance to like talk to anybody that, I've seen do that, because there might be other reason that they chose to take a specific route that I'm not, I don't have all the information, but it was kind of interesting to see.
Yeah, that's a great point, though. I think that'd be really interesting kind of application of this data too, as to where can we do more signage, and as we're kind of, like as Jacob was saying too, as we're kind of, as the county's starting to build out their signs for bike wayfinding, the city too, we also want to be, we're trying to start expanding that too. So I think that's a really good idea for what some of our next projects could maybe be in terms of where we're putting the bike wayfinding signs.
Cool. This is really neat. Did anybody have any questions or comments in the room or on the call?
Do you have internal data showing the age of riders?
No, we do not. So the companies have, like when people sign up for their, even that's kind of the end of it for that there. Yeah.
In so many conversations I've been having around the community, it's like, well, teens aren't biking because they're riding scooters. You know what I mean? Like, wouldn't you pick a scooter if you had the choice? I'm like, in certain areas, it certainly looks like a lot of young people, but I don't hate it.
Yeah,
When you take a ride, you're just paying.
Yeah. It says it's a little, it's kind of imperfect, but the scooter companies do have, like, they've kind of done more like survey type stuff too, and we do know like the main demographic for riding is more like age like 18 to like 28, something like that. That's kind of the most common one. It is more younger people that we also see though too that seated scooters have a little bit older ridership typically. So there's some interesting stuff there. But yeah, it's more, the city itself doesn't have like access to that.
Is there like an age requirement to sign up for it?
So that's an interesting thing too. So the apps, so the city doesn't have an age requirement for the program. The companies actually though both require that you be 18 years or older. I think it's kind of a liability thing. Yeah, and that's something that's been a concern of some people too, is there's younger people, right? Some people think that's a bad thing. I think other people think it can be an option for people who otherwise may not be able to, but it's kind of, there's a limited kind of capability to, traversing through the apps and stuff like that. A parent can sign up for their kid or something like that. So people can use debit cards to sign up. So it's,
but there's no statute or ordinance for the city that
the city,
if you're 15 to 16, you can ride a scooter fine. Companies don't necessarily want to allow that, but it's not the city's problem. It has no issue with it.
The city doesn't have a requirement. Yeah.
Interesting.
Do you think we should rename protected bike lanes, protected bike and scooter lanes?
It's a good
micromobility lane.
Micromobility lanes. Yeah, that's a good question. I think I don't know the answer to that. Yeah, it's a good point though. There's a lot of people using these. So
no, I was on Walnut the other day. There was just a scooter in like the traffic lane rather than the path.
And bold. There can be too, like one interesting thing about scooters is that private scooters, people who have their own scooters, sometimes people mistake them as part of our program and they'll maybe complain about them or something like that. But also these personal scooters can, like, kind of like the e-bike issue, like they can go really fast. So like some of those, like, some of those scooters can, the technology behind them is different. Like these ones are speed limited at 15 miles per hour. So kind of like bubble e-bikes are also like that. That's kind of generally, that's like a standard for some of that stuff. But yeah, personal scooters may be actually going too fast really to go in the bike lane.
Anybody else? Cool. Well, I appreciate it. I think, sharing that data, you can see the map yourself, you can go to it. It's really interesting to look at kind of where the hot spots are. Might be surprised in some cases. there aren't any upcoming changes to the scooter program. We've got new corrals going out, but
New corrals is the main thing, yep.
Is it still seasonal?
So the program does go, like, they're allowed to have scooters out there year round. The city has a kind of a minimum and maximum requirement for how many scooters are out for the companies. But those are like, the minimum is only in effect really during the kind of more warmer months. So I think it's like May through September, they can have 500 vehicles. And then in April and in October, they kind of, it's lower as 250. So it kind of scales up and down. I think from conversations with the operators, they're both planning, or at least in particular, I know Lime is planning to leave them out there until the weather basically kind of makes it not feasible for them anymore.
They don't have snow scooters?
I mean, they can still be going on the streets after the snow, I guess. But I think that's something where now that we have a permanent program too versus these pilots, that's something that we'll be able to experiment with a bit more.
oh, because it never ran during the winter.
Yeah, I think they typically ended, I think, over those months. So yeah, this is a kind of, will be a new phase, but, and also I think as the climate has been changing, I think too, like, our winters have been getting shorter and less severe. So there's more opportunities for the scooters to be out there longer.
Can outfit them with studded tires too.
Yeah, and they've also, interestingly, I've actually heard too that they've been getting different batteries too. They have the swappable batteries that are in them. There's other, like Lime in particular has got some that are better for colder weather. So I think it's something they're planning to keep out longer. So we'll see how long that ends up being. And I think it's pretty weather dependent. But
I think that was all I had. Appreciate the update.
Yeah, definitely. If you have
Information.
more updates on scooters, we can definitely do so.
Appreciate that. I think that's the end of our planned agenda. Have the agenda here somewhere. Work groups, right? So Barry and I are the only ones here. So I'm assuming we don't have any updates to share, Barry.
I mean, Mitch, I could just note quickly that
Sure.
last week at the DPW meeting with Mike alongside, there was just a quick communication file opened up for work on the 6th and Canal connection with the Hank Aaron State Trail that we had talked about previously at PBAC. So that has just been made into a communication file with DPW. And their plans to enhance connection and wayfinding for that part of the trail. Mike, please correct me if I misspoke or left out any details.
Like shaking his
No,
head.
you did right. We're moving forward on some of the recommendations.
The legislation for the street parking, did that happen?
It did not. It
Okay.
did not end up on the sketch on the agenda, and I'm not quite sure why. So I believe it will end up on the first,
September.
in the next cycle, but it won't be until after the summer recess.
Right, that's September. Okay, and that, for context, that is the our recommendation to this
To the
state lobbyists.
update the ledge package so that we can have more autonomy over our regulations.
Right. Local control for parking
Right,
regulations.
yeah, and I apologize, I was out of town, and so I had an analyst covering it, but they were like, it just never made that
Yeah,
agenda.
I was out of town as well, but I think September sounds good either way. So I think, unless there's other things to share or updates.
Yeah, that I did, the work group might have met, but I was out of town, so I missed it.
It's all good. Okay. So I think we can move into new business. We see the one thing that I know for sure is we'll have to approve June's minutes next month. What else? Is the what was it? Mobility plan? That Tanya was working on. Is that something she would want to present on next?
We haven't started.
No, okay, no mobility plan.
Contract negotiations.
Great. I don't think anything else came up. Or I guess, well, the other thing was growing MKE. I didn't send out any of the letters, but I know that the hearing is coming up in a weekish. So I'll get those out. Yeah, so I guess we can move into events and announcements. Anybody have any of events that they wanted to share or otherwise announcements? And were the events you mentioned open to the public? Did you want to share those?
Tomorrow, yeah. Well, it's a 20th anniversary celebration for the Kellogg Peak Initiative. It used to be called Lake Valley Camp. They're located in Tiefenthaler Park, so they're having a block party, a big celebration, block party and resource fair. Tomorrow it's 1 to 5. Anyone's welcome. Since we ran into Liam that day in the park, we've got Marissa is coming and will be sharing information along with us. So
cool. Any other events, BPW events? Oh, Laura.
Oh, it's not an event. Do you want me to wait?
Sorry.
Do you want me to wait?
No, if you have an announcement or something, please.
Yeah, I just wanted to share because I feel like this is a group that would be in the proximity of something happening. But we've had a rash of vandalism. Sorry, Laura Bolger, Executive Director of Bubbler Bikes. Sorry, context setting. We've had a rash of, and I would even say it's more of a epidemic of vandalism across the city. Last total, we have 20 bikes that have been destroyed, as well as our docks. Tiefenthaler is currently shut down because we do not have the equipment to replace it. If you happen to see someone messing with our bikes, please, obviously your safety is most important, but you can take picture, or if you come across a bike that's been vandalized, and we're talking violently ripped out of our station and left by the dock, can you take a picture and text our Bubbler customer service number, which is on all of the docks? It's 414-931-1121. We have had a couple witnesses. It sounds like it's kids, like between 10 and 13 years old, doing this. But other than that, we really need like eyes on our station. So if you see anything weird, or if you try to check out a bike and you can't get it out, just text our number and take a picture of what you've seen. That'll help us with our police reports. Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, that's really unfortunate. Any other events or announcements? Well, next week or a week from today, 2 big bike events. We've got Critical Mass leaving from Red Arrow Park at 6 on the 26th. We'll be ending at the other big bicycle event next week, the River West 24. Starts Saturday at 7 until Friday at 7 and ends Saturday at 7. So yeah, people will be riding bikes 24 hours. River West, always a good time. Encourage checking it out. Otherwise, that's all I've got. And I would hear a motion to adjourn. I know.
I motion to adjourn.
I don't think we'll get a second, but I think we can just adjourn. Hearing no
So
objection.
it's more of a decree, but okay, sounds good.
Yeah, no, it's unilateral. We're adjourning. Thanks everybody. Thanks to all the presenters. Thanks to DPW for staffing and helping the meeting. And everybody attended. And have a great
Thanks,
weekend.
everybody.
thanks. Where's your gavel?
Oh, I've thought about the high cap.